The silence in the supermarket was deafening. Every eye in the store was fixed on the tall, impeccably dressed man standing at checkout lane 3. Marcus Wellington, one of the wealthiest men in Lagos, stood frozen as the cashier repeated those impossible words. "Sir, your card has been declined." Marcus felt his throat tighten. This couldn't be happening. Not here. Not now. He pulled out another card, his hands trembling slightly despite his efforts to appear calm. The cashier swiped it. The machine beeped mockingly. Declined. He tried a third card. Same result. Sweat began to form on his forehead as whispers rippled through the growing crowd behind him. "Isn't that Marcus Wellington?" someone murmured. "The billionaire. No way his cards would be declined. Maybe he's a fraud. Maybe it was all fake." Marcus's security detail stood awkwardly nearby, their faces masks of confusion. His assistant, Jennifer, frantically dialed numbers on her phone, trying to reach the bank. The shopping cart before him held over $300 worth of groceries, medications for the children's hospital charity event he was sponsoring that evening. An event that would now be impossible without these supplies. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside," the cashier said, her voice a mixture of embarrassment and procedure. It was at that moment, as Marcus Wellington's world seemed to crumble around him, that a small hand tugged at his expensive suit jacket. He looked down to see a little girl, no more than 9 years old, with her hair in neat cornrows and wearing a faded but clean school uniform. Her eyes sparkled with something Marcus couldn't quite identify. Innocence. Wisdom. Something else entirely. "Mister," she said softly, "I can help you." The crowd fell silent. What could a child possibly do in this situation? Marcus stared at her, his mind racing. This little girl, who looked like she didn't have much herself, was offering to help him, a man who owned 3 houses and drove cars worth more than most people's homes. Before Marcus could respond, the girl reached into her small backpack and pulled out something that made everyone in that supermarket gasp. What she did next would not only save Marcus Wellington from the most humiliating moment of his life, but would also reveal a secret that would shake the very foundation of everything he thought he knew about his empire, his family, and the mysterious forces that had been working against him. But to understand how a little girl could save a billionaire, we need to go back 3 weeks earlier, to the day when Marcus Wellington's perfect life first showed its cracks. 21 days before the supermarket incident, Marcus Wellington woke up in his penthouse overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. The sunrise painted his floor-to-ceiling windows in shades of orange and gold. Everything in his life was precisely as it should be. His company, Wellington Industries, had just secured a $200 million contract. His wife, Amora, was planning their 20th anniversary celebration. His 2 children were excelling in school. Life was good. That morning, Marcus received a phone call that should have been routine. His younger brother, David, wanted to discuss some company financial reports. They agreed to meet for lunch at their favorite spot in Victoria Island. "Marcus, something doesn't add up," David said, sliding a folder across the table at the restaurant. "I've been reviewing our accounts, and there are transactions I can't trace. Large sums moving in and out." Marcus frowned, opening the folder. His brother was the company's CFO, meticulous to a fault. If David said something was wrong, something was wrong. "How much are we talking about?" Marcus asked. 15 million over the past 6 months. Marcus's fork clattered against his plate. 15 million. And our auditors didn't catch this. David leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "That's what worries me. It's like someone knew exactly how to hide it. Someone with intimate knowledge of our systems." Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus and David quietly investigated. What they discovered was chilling. Someone within Wellington Industries was systematically draining funds, but the trail was expertly concealed. Every lead ended in a dead end. Every suspicious transaction had just enough documentation to appear legitimate. Then, the threats began. The first message arrived via email, untraceable. Stop digging, or lose everything. Marcus ignored it. The second came as a text to his personal phone, a number only family and close friends had. Your family. Your fortune. Your reputation. Choose wisely. The third message was delivered in person, a note slipped under his office door. We know about Kinshasa. Those 4 words made Marcus's blood run cold. Kinshasa was a secret from his past, something buried so deep he'd almost convinced himself it never happened. A business deal 20 years ago that had bent, if not broken, several laws. He'd been young, ambitious, perhaps too willing to cut corners. He'd long since made amends in his own way, channeling millions into legitimate charities, building schools and hospitals. But if this information went public, it could destroy everything. Marcus became paranoid. He checked his accounts obsessively. He varied his routes to work. He had his home security upgraded. But he made one critical mistake. He didn't tell Amora everything. He didn't want to worry her, he told himself. In truth, he was ashamed. The day before the supermarket incident, Marcus received a final warning. This time, it was a video sent to his phone. Footage of him from 20 years ago, shaking hands with a man later convicted of corruption. The video was damning, taken out of context but devastating nonetheless. The message was clear. Tomorrow, you'll understand what it means to have nothing. This is just the beginning. Marcus barely slept at night. The next morning, he decided to carry on as normal. He had the charity event to prepare for. He couldn't let whoever was behind this see him break. He drove himself to the supermarket, dismissing most of his security detail. He wanted to feel normal, even if just for an hour. That's when his card started declining. As Marcus stood at that checkout counter, he didn't know that in the crowd watching him, someone was recording everything. He didn't know that his bank accounts hadn't just been frozen, they'd been completely wiped. Every investment, every asset, somehow transferred out overnight. He didn't know that in 3 hours, news vans would be packed outside his home, responding to anonymous tips about fraud and embezzlement. All he knew was that his life was falling apart, and the only person offering help was a little girl with wise eyes and a mysterious smile. Have you ever had a moment where everything changed in an instant? A moment where you realized nothing was as it seemed? Drop a comment below and let us know where in the world you're watching this from. And if you're enjoying this story so far, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next, because what this little girl is about to do will leave you speechless. What's your name? Marcus asked the little girl, his voice barely above a whisper. The crowd pressed closer, phones out, recording every second of his humiliation. Zara, she replied simply. And you don't have to be afraid, Mr. Wellington. I know what's happening to you. Those words sent a chill down Marcus's spine. How could this child know anything about his situation? He told no one outside his brother about the investigation. Zara reached into her backpack again, and this time she pulled out a small, worn photograph. She held it up so only Marcus could see. His knees nearly buckled. It was a picture of him from 20 years ago, but not the one from the video. This was different. This showed him at a children's orphanage in Kinshasa, not shaking hands with criminals, but holding a sick baby, tears streaming down his face. My mother gave me this before she died, Zara said. She told me that one day, I would meet the man in this picture. She said when his cards were declined and everyone turned against him, I should give him this. With shaking hands, Marcus took the photograph. On the back, written in faded ink, was a message. Marcus Wellington saved my daughter's life when no one else would. He paid for her surgery with his own money when she had no one. He is a good man. If he ever needs help, help him. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. He remembered now. During that trip to Kinshasa, he'd visited an orphanage. There was a baby, desperately ill, and the orphanage couldn't afford the surgery. Marcus had paid for it anonymously, or so he thought. He'd never told anyone, not even Amora. It was one of the few things from that trip that filled him with pride rather than shame. Your mother was that baby? Marcus asked. Zara nodded. She died last year, but she never forgot you. She made sure I never forgot either. But how did you know to be here today? How did you know this would happen? A small smile played at Zara's lips. I didn't. I've been looking for you for 3 months, ever since Mama died. I go to different supermarkets every day after school, hoping to see you. Today, I was blessed. The crowd had grown silent, straining to hear their conversation. Zara reached into her backpack once more and pulled out a small envelope, handing it to Marcus. Mama said you would need this, she said. Marcus opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a single piece of paper with a name, an address, and a date. The date was today. The name made Marcus's blood run cold. It was his wife's maiden name, Amora Okonkwo. But the address wasn't their home. It was a law office downtown. I don't understand, Marcus said. Mama was very sick at the end, Zara explained quietly. She worked as a cleaner at a big law office. She overheard things. Things about you. About your wife. About a plan. She wrote it all down for me to give to you, but she made me promise to only give it to you when you had nothing left. She said only then would you believe her. Only then would you see the truth. Marcus felt the words spinning. What truth? What plan? Zara pulled out one more item from her seemingly bottomless backpack. It was a USB drive attached to a small note in a different handwriting, messier, as if written in a hurry. Mr. Wellington, your wife has been planning this for 2 years. She's not who you think she is. The evidence is on this drive. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I cleaned her office. I heard everything. Please forgive me for not telling you sooner. I was afraid. The note was signed, Patience Moller, with a date from 3 months before Zora's mother died. Marcus's hands shook so violently he nearly dropped the USB drive. His wife. Amora. The woman he'd loved for 20 years. The mother of his children. It was impossible. It had to be a mistake. Sir, Jennifer, his assistant, pushed through the crowd, her face pale. I finally got through to the bank. They said all transfers were authorized by someone with your joint account access. They are saying it was Mrs. Wellington. The supermarket seemed to tilt. Marcus grabbed the shopping cart for support. This couldn't be real. Amora had been with him since before his success. She'd supported him through the lean years, celebrated every victory. Why would she do this? There's more, Jennifer continued, her voice cracking. The police are at your house. Someone filed a report claiming you've been embezzling from your own charity foundation. They have documentation, Marcus. They have your signature on everything. Marcus's mind raced. His signature. Joint account access. 2 years of planning. The anonymous threats. The video from Kinshasa. Someone with intimate knowledge of his systems. It had been Amora all along. Why? Marcus whispered, not really asking anyone, just releasing the word into the universe. Zara touched his hand gently. My mama's letter says why. It's all on the drive. But Mr. Wellington, you need to leave here now. The people your wife is working with, they're dangerous. Mama found out who they are. That's why she got so sick so fast. They poisoned her. The little girl's words were so matter-of-fact, so calm, that they were even more terrifying. Marcus looked into her eyes and saw a child who had grown up too fast, who had seen too much. "Come with me," Marcus said suddenly. "It's not safe for you either. If they know about your mother, if they think she told you anything." Zara nodded. "I know. That's why I live with my auntie now, and we move every few weeks. But I promised Mama I would find you. I promised I would help you like you helped her. Now I have. Now we both need to run." Marcus looked around the supermarket. The crowd, the cameras, the whispers. His life as he knew it was over. But maybe, just maybe, with the evidence on this USB drive, he could fight back. He could expose whoever had turned his wife against him. He could clear his name. "Jennifer," Marcus said, his voice gaining strength. "Call David. Tell him to meet me at the safe house in Lekki. Tell him to trust no one, and I mean no one. Come on, Zara. Let's go." As Marcus Wellington walked out of that supermarket, leaving behind his declined cards and his shocked audience, he didn't look like a broken man anymore. He looked like a man with a purpose. A man who had just realized that sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. Sometimes it comes from a 9-year-old girl with a backpack full of secrets and a debt of gratitude 20 years in the making. But neither Marcus nor Zara noticed the woman in the back of the store, partially hidden behind a display of canned goods, speaking urgently into her phone. "He has the drive?" "Yes," the girl found him. "No, I couldn't stop it." "What do you want me to do?" She paused, listening. "Understood. I'll take care of it." The woman ended the call and watched as Marcus and Zara disappeared through the supermarket's automatic doors. She smiled, but it wasn't the kind smile. It was the smile of a predator watching prey walk into a trap. The safe house in Lekki was a modest 2-bedroom apartment Marcus had purchased years ago under a shell company. Only David knew about it. At least, that's what Marcus had always believed. As he pulled up in a taxi, Zara beside him still clutching her backpack, he felt a brief moment of relief. They'd switched vehicles twice, taking a deliberately complicated route. No one could have followed them. David arrived 30 minutes later, his face a mask of concern and confusion. "Marcus, what's happening?" "Jennifer said something about Amora and the police and you need to tell me everything right now." Marcus handed him the USB drive. "First, we need to see what's on this." The three of them crowded around David's laptop. What they found made Marcus's stomach turn. The drive contained months of emails, recorded conversations, financial documents, and photographs. The story they told was devastating. Amora had been recruited 2 years ago by a consortium of businessmen Marcus had outbid on several major contracts. They'd approached her with a simple proposition. Help them destroy Marcus, take half his fortune for herself, and they'd ensure she lived the rest of her life in luxury. But there was more. The emails revealed that Amora had been unhappy for years, feeling overshadowed by Marcus's success, resentful of always being Mrs. Wellington instead of her own person. "I can't believe this," David said, scrolling through page after page of evidence. "She's been planning this down to the smallest detail. The Kinshasa video, the threats, the frozen accounts, the police report, all of it. She even paid someone to hack your security system at home to track your movements." Zara sat quietly on the couch, looking small and vulnerable. "My mama discovered this because she cleaned Mrs. Wellington's private office at the law firm. Mrs. Wellington would meet there with the other people. Mama heard them talking about how they'd frame you, how they'd take everything. Mama took pictures of documents when Mrs. Wellington wasn't looking. She copied files from her computer. That's all on the drive too." Marcus felt like he was drowning. 20 years of marriage, 2 children, a life built together, and it had all been a lie. At least the last 2 years had been. "There's more," David said quietly, clicking on a folder labeled Final Phase. "Marcus, you need to see this." The file contained a plan, meticulously detailed. After destroying Marcus financially and legally, Amora intended to file for divorce, claiming abuse. She had been documenting false evidence, creating a narrative of a controlling, violent husband. She would get full custody of the children, and Marcus would lose access to everything, including his freedom if her allegations led to criminal charges. "My children," Marcus whispered. "Where are my children?" He grabbed his phone, but David stopped him. "You can't call. They are probably monitoring your phone. Any contact could be used against you." Marcus felt panic rising in his chest. "I have to know they're safe. David, she's taken everything from me, but she can't have my kids. She can't." Zara stood up and walked over to Marcus. For a little girl who had been through so much, she had a remarkable calmness about her. "Mr. Wellington, your children are safe. They're at school. Your wife won't do anything to them. They're her insurance that you won't fight back too hard. As long as you want to see them again, you be careful." "How do you know this?" Marcus asked. "Because that's what the bad people always do," Zara said simply. "They take what you love and use it to control you. My mama taught me that." David pulled up another file. "There's a recording here. Audio only. It's dated 3 days ago." He pressed play. Amora's voice filled the room, and hearing it made Marcus feel physically ill. "Is everything in place for Friday?" That was Amora. "Yes." The man's voice, unfamiliar. "His cards will all decline. The media will be tipped off. The police will have enough evidence to bring him in for questioning. By the end of the day, Marcus Wellington will be ruined." "Good." Amora's voice was cold, businesslike. "And you're sure the accounts are secure?" "There's no way he can trace the transfers back to me. The trail leads to offshore accounts in his name. Even if he claims fraud, it'll take years to sort out. You'll have filed for divorce and gained custody long before then. The prenup won't matter because we're claiming domestic violence. You get everything." "Excellent. I've waited so long for this. 20 years playing the dutiful wife. 20 years in his shadow. Well, no more. After this, I'll finally be free." The recording ended. The silence in the apartment was absolute. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. He'd loved this woman. He'd built a life with her. And she'd hated him, perhaps for years. Why didn't she just leave? Marcus asked no one in particular. "Why destroy me? Why not just ask for a divorce?" "Because it was never just about leaving," David said quietly. "It's about revenge. And money. Mostly money. The emails show she's been promised $50 million by the consortium once your company's stock crashes and they can buy it up for pennies. Plus whatever she gets in the divorce." Marcus stood up, pacing the small apartment. His mind was racing. Okay, let me think. She's planned this perfectly, but she made one mistake. She didn't account for Zara's mother. She didn't know someone was documenting everything. This evidence, can we use it? David nodded slowly. We can. But we have to be smart about it. If we go to the police now, Amora's people might have enough influence to bury it. We need to go public. We need to release this information where it can't be suppressed. The media, Marcus said. But not just any reporter. Someone with integrity. Someone who can't be bought. I know someone, David said. Chimamanda Okoli. She's an investigative journalist who's been writing about corporate corruption. She's turned down bribe attempts before. If anyone will run this story fairly, it's her. Marcus nodded. Contact her. Tell her we have the story of the year. But we need protection first. If we are going to do this, Amora and her partners will come after us with everything they have. Zara spoke up. Mr. Wellington, my mama's letter said one more thing. She said to tell you that your head of security, Mr. Adeyemi, is loyal. He doesn't know what's happening, but he's been kept out of the loop deliberately by your wife. She was afraid he wouldn't go along with the plan. He's still on your side. Marcus grabbed his phone, then hesitated. If they are monitoring my calls, use mine, David offered. It's encrypted. I set it up when I first discovered the financial discrepancies. The call to Adeyemi was brief but intense. The security chief was shocked, angry, and immediately activated a private security team Marcus had hired years ago for emergencies. Within 2 hours, the safe house had armed protection, and plans were in motion to secretly retrieve Marcus's children from their private school before Amora realized what was happening. But while they planned, across town, Amora Wellington sat in her luxury home, watching news reports of her husband's public humiliation at the supermarket. The footage had gone viral. Social media was ablaze with speculation. Everything was going according to plan. She sipped her wine and smiled. Then her phone rang. An unknown number. Hello. Mrs. Wellington, we have a problem. It was one of our partners in the conspiracy. Your husband left the supermarket with someone. A young girl. Our contact in the store recognized her. She's the daughter of that cleaning woman who died last year. The one who was snooping around. Amora's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Patience's daughter. That's impossible. We made sure all of Patience's belongings were destroyed after she died. Apparently not everything. We just intercepted some communications. Marcus is at a safe house with his brother. They have digital files. Recordings. Everything. The wine glass slipped from Amora's fingers, shattering on the marble floor. How? How did a child get access to those files? Does it matter? We need to act now. If they go public with that information, we're all finished. Amora's mind raced. She'd been so careful, so meticulous. How had she not known about Patience's daughter? How had she underestimated a child? Where's the safe house? Amora demanded. We don't know yet. But we are working on it. In the meantime, you need to accelerate the plan. File the police report now. Get the restraining order. Lock him out of everything. Make your abuse allegations public before he can make his case. Amora was already moving, grabbing her laptop, pulling up documents. What about the children? Use them. Hold a press conference. Bring the kids. Play the protective mother. Say you're afraid for their safety. Make Marcus look like a monster before he can expose the truth. Amora smiled, her earlier panic fading. Yes. Yes, that could work. People always believe the woman in these situations. Especially when children are involved. Just do it fast. We estimate you have maybe 6 hours before they make their move. Amora ended the call and immediately began making arrangements. She would salvage this. She would still win. Marcus had always underestimated her, and he was doing it again. He thought he was so smart, so noble. Well, she would show him. She would destroy him so thoroughly that even evidence wouldn't save him. But as Amora Wellington prepared to launch the final phase of her plan, she made one critical error. She forgot that the most dangerous opponent is one with nothing left to lose. And she forgot that sometimes, the smallest person in the room can change everything. The press conference was scheduled for 6 p.m. Amora stood before a bank of microphones, her children on either side of her, looking confused and scared. She'd rehearsed this moment 100 times. Tears at the ready, voice trembling just so, the perfect image of a brave mother protecting her family. I'm here today to speak a difficult truth, Amora began, her voice catching perfectly. For years, I've been living in fear. My husband, Marcus Wellington, has been set up by his wife in an elaborate conspiracy to steal his fortune. The new voice came from the back of the room. The crowd of reporters turned as one. Marcus Wellington walked in, flanked by his security team and his lawyer. But it was the little girl holding his hand that made everyone stare. Zara looked directly at Amora, her young face serious and knowing. Amora's carefully prepared tears dried instantly. "Marcus, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be here. There's a restraining order that you filed 2 hours ago based on false allegations," Marcus's lawyer interrupted. "A restraining order we're already challenging. And Mr. Wellington has every right to be here to defend himself against defamation." "Daddy." Marcus's son, 12-year-old Kofi, broke free from his mother and ran to Marcus. His daughter, 10-year-old Oma, hesitated only a moment before following. Amora reached for them, but they slipped past her. "The cameras captured everything. I have evidence," Marcus said calmly, holding up a USB drive identical to the one Zara had given him. "This drive contains 2 years of communications proving that my wife, along with several business associates, has been systematically destroying my reputation, stealing my assets, and planning to frame me for crimes I didn't commit." Amora laughed, but it sounded forced. "You expect people to believe that? You're clearly desperate, Marcus. Your cards were declined at a supermarket. You're broke. This is just a sad attempt to—" "I'm not broke," Marcus interrupted. "My accounts were frozen illegally using access my wife had to joint financial instruments. The bank is currently restoring everything. As for the declined cards, that was the trigger for your plan, wasn't it, Amora? The public humiliation was supposed to be the beginning of my end." One of the reporters called out, "Mr. Wellington, what evidence do you have?" Marcus's lawyer stepped forward. "We're providing copies of this drive to all media outlets represented here today. It contains emails, recorded conversations, financial documents, and photographic evidence of a conspiracy involving Mrs. Wellington and 3 executives from competing firms. It also contains proof that allegations of domestic violence are fabricated." Amora's face had gone pale. "This is ridiculous. Whatever is on that drive is fake. Deep fakes, forgeries. Including your voice?" Marcus asked quietly. "Including your handwritten notes. Including photographs of you meeting with the very men who have tried to destroy my company." The room erupted with questions. Reporters shouted over each other. Camera flashes were blinding. Amora looked around wildly, searching for support, but the executives she'd been working with were nowhere to be seen. Of course they weren't. They'd never planned to stand with her if things fell apart. "The little girl," one reporter called out. "Who is she and why is she with you?" Marcus put his hand on Zara's shoulder. "This is Zara. Her mother was a woman named Patience Moller, who worked as a cleaner at the law office where my wife was planning this conspiracy. Patience overheard everything and documented it, risking her own life to preserve the truth. She passed away 3 months ago, but not before ensuring her daughter could give me this evidence." Zara stepped forward, speaking into the microphones with a clarity that belied her age. "My mama said Mr. Wellington was a good man who helped people when no one was watching. She said when bad things happened to him, I should help him the way he once helped us. So I did." The room fell silent. There was something about this child's simple honesty that cut through all the noise and drama. "Where were you watching?" Marcus asked, looking directly at the cameras. "When you heard about my cards being declined, when you saw me at that supermarket, did you laugh? Did you judge? We all make assumptions about people based on a single moment. But life is more complex than that. Truth is more complex than that. If you've stayed with this story, if you're watching now, then you know that sometimes the real story is hidden beneath the surface. Hit that like button if you believe in truth. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this. Share this with friends who need to know that things aren't always what they seem. It was a bold move, addressing the online audience directly during a press conference, but Marcus understood the power of social media. His story had gone viral once as humiliation. Now it would go viral as vindication. Mrs. Wellington, a reporter called out. Do you deny these allegations? Amora stood frozen. She could deny it. She could claim forgery, deepfakes, conspiracy against her. But looking at Marcus's calm face, at the USB drives being distributed to reporters, at her own children clinging to their father, she knew it was over. The evidence was too complete. Too damning. I want a lawyer, Amora finally said. Of course you do, Marcus replied sadly. You're going to need several. As security led Amora away from the press conference, Marcus knelt down to his children's level. I know this is confusing and scary. I know you don't understand what's happening. But I promise you, I will never let anything bad happen to you. We are going to be okay. Amma, his daughter, looked up at him with tears in her eyes. Did mommy really try to hurt you? It was the hardest question Marcus had ever been asked. How do you explain to a child that their mother had betrayed their father so completely? How do you help them process that kind of pain? Your mother made some very bad choices, Marcus said carefully. But that doesn't mean she doesn't love you. This is between your mother and me. You're not responsible for any of it. Do you understand? Both children nodded, but Marcus could see the confusion and hurt in their eyes. This would take time to heal. Perhaps it would never fully heal. But they would get through it together. Zara stood nearby, still holding her backpack. Marcus stood and walked over to her. Zara, I can never repay what you and your mother did for me. Never. Mama said you already repaid it, Zara replied. 20 years ago when you saved her life. She said this was just returning the favor. What will you do now? Where will you go? Back to my auntie's house. Back to school. Back to being a normal girl, I hope. Marcus smiled. Would you and your auntie consider moving into better housing? Consider it a thank you. And let me pay for your education. All the way through university if you want. It's the least I can do. Zara's eyes widened. Really? Really? Your mother gave me back my life. Let me give you the future she would have wanted for you. As the press conference ended and people filed out, David approached Marcus. It's not over, you know. The legal battles will take months. The consortium will fight back. This is just the beginning. I know, Marcus said. But I'm not afraid anymore. I have the truth on my side. I have my children. I have people like you and Zara and her mother who believed in doing what's right. That's more than enough. That night, as news of the dramatic press conference spread across social media and television, Marcus sat in a hotel room with his children, watching them sleep. His phone buzzed constantly with messages of support from friends, business partners, and complete strangers who'd followed his story. One message stood out. It was from Chimamanda Okoli, the investigative journalist David had contacted. Mr. Wellington, I've reviewed the evidence. Your story is going to run in tomorrow's edition. Front page. But there's something else on this drive you might not have seen yet. A file labeled insurance. You should look at it. Marcus plugged the USB drive into his laptop with shaking hands. He navigated to the file Chimamanda mentioned. It was a video file, dated 2 days before Patience Moller's death. He pressed play. The video showed Patience, clearly ill, lying in a hospital bed. Her voice was weak but determined. Mr. Wellington, if you're watching this, then Zara found you. Good. I need to tell you something that's not in the other files. Something I discovered the day before I got sick. Marcus leaned closer to the screen. Your wife's plan, all of it, was designed by someone else. She's not the mastermind. She's being used. There's someone behind everything, someone who has a vendetta against you that goes back even further than 20 years. Someone who... Patience broke off, coughing violently. When she continued, her voice was barely a whisper. The person behind everything is someone you trust. Someone close to your family. Someone you would never suspect. I found proof, but I hid it separately because it was too dangerous to keep with the other files. The proof is... The video cut off abruptly. The screen went black. Marcus sat in stunned silence. Someone he trusted. Someone close to his family. But who? Everyone he trusted implicitly had been cleared. David had been helping him. His security chief had been loyal. Who else was there? His phone rang. Unknown number. Against his better judgment, Marcus answered. Hello. Marcus Wellington. The voice was distorted, electronically altered. You think you've won. You think exposing your wife ends this. It doesn't. The game is still being played. And you're still losing. Look closer at everyone around you. Trust no one. The truth is closer than you think and more painful than you can imagine. Sleep well, Marcus. Or try to. The line went dead. Marcus looked at his sleeping children, then at the frozen frame of Patience's video. Somewhere out there, someone was still pulling strings. Someone who knew his every move. Someone who had been planning this for longer than he could imagine. The nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat with his laptop, going through every file on the USB drive again, looking for clues to the mystery person Patience had mentioned. As dawn broke over Lagos, he was no closer to an answer but was determined to find one. The morning newspapers hit the stands with Marcus's story dominating the headlines. Public opinion swung dramatically in his favor. Social media exploded with support. The consortium of businessmen who'd worked with Amora began distancing themselves, some even offering to cooperate. Continue. With investigators in exchange for reduced charges. Marcus's company stock, which had plummeted the day before, was already recovering. But Marcus couldn't celebrate. That phone call haunted him. Someone you trust. Someone close to your family. David arrived at the hotel at 8 in the morning with coffee and pastries. You look terrible, he said, setting down the food. Did you sleep at all? David, there's something I need to tell you. Marcus showed him Patience's final video and told him about the mysterious phone call. David's face grew grave. Someone close to the family. Marcus, that's a short list. Me, Jennifer, Adeyemi, a few others. Are you saying you suspect one of us? I don't want to, Marcus admitted. But Patience died trying to tell me something. And whoever called me last night knew I'd seen that video. They're watching me, David. Still. For the next 3 days, Marcus became a detective in his own life. He reviewed security footage from his home, his office, everywhere he'd been in the past 2 years. He cross-referenced timelines, looking for patterns. He interviewed staff members, always watching for tells, for nervousness, for anything suspicious. Nothing. On the 4th day, something unexpected happened. Zara showed up at Marcus's hotel with her Aunt Chioma, a kind-faced woman in her 40s. Mr. Wellington, Chioma said apologetically. I'm sorry to bother you, but Zara insisted we come. She says she remembers something her mother told her. Something important. Zara looked nervous, twisting her hands together. I didn't remember before because Mama said it in Igbo, and my Igbo isn't very good. But Auntie Chioma was helping me with my language homework last night, and I suddenly remembered. Mama said the person behind everything was Umon, which means sibling. But she said it in a strange way, like she was sad about it. The room went very quiet. Marcus felt his heart stop. Sibling. David was his only sibling. No, Marcus said firmly. Absolutely not. David has been helping me from the beginning. He's the one who discovered the financial discrepancies. He's the one who... Marcus froze mid-sentence. David was the one who discovered the discrepancies. David, the CFO, who would have been in the perfect position to hide them in the first place. David, who had convinced him to come to this specific hotel. David, who had his encrypted phone. David, who knew about the safe house in Lekki. It can't be, Marcus whispered, but even as he said it, pieces were falling into place. He pulled up the drive's files on his laptop, searching with new eyes. There, buried in the financial records, were transactions David would have personally approved. Small things, easily missed unless you were looking for them. Transfers that happened on days David had been alone in the office. Emails sent from IP addresses traced back to David's personal computer. But it was another file that confirmed it. A scanned copy of a document from 25 years ago. A partnership agreement for their father's original business, before Wellington Industries existed. The agreement showed that their father had promised equal shares to both sons. But when their father died, Marcus had inherited everything. David had gotten nothing. The will had been changed 1 week before their father's death. Marcus had never questioned it, assuming his father had his reasons. He'd given David a position in the company, made him CFO, treated him well. But he'd never thought to ask if David resented him for the inheritance. 25 years, Marcus said aloud. He's been waiting 25 years. There was a knock at the door. Marcus opened it to find David standing there, holding 2 cups of coffee as he did every morning. Good morning, David said cheerfully. I brought your usual. He stopped, seeing Zara, Chioma, and Marcus's expression. What's wrong? Marcus couldn't speak. He just stared at his brother, the man he trusted more than anyone, the man who'd apparently orchestrated his destruction. David's smile faded. He set down the coffee cup slowly. You figured it out. It wasn't a question. David walked into the room, and Marcus's security team tensed, but David held up his hands. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I just want to talk. Don't I deserve that much, Marcus? After everything. After everything you've done, you mean? Marcus's voice shook with anger and heartbreak. It was you. All of it. You recruited Amora. You planned everything. David sat down calmly, as if they were discussing business strategy rather than betrayal. Not all of it. Amora's resentment was real. I just gave her a way to act on it. The consortium's grudge against you was real. I just coordinated their efforts. I didn't create the darkness, Marcus. I just organized it. Why? Marcus demanded. I gave you everything. A position in the company, respect, wealth. You gave me scraps from your table. David's calm facade cracked. It was supposed to be our company, Marcus. Father promised us both equal shares. But then you did something, said something, convinced him to change his will. You took everything that should have been half mine. I never convinced Father to do anything, Marcus protested. I didn't even know about the will change until after he died. Liar. David stood up, his face contorted with old rage. You were always his favorite. The smart one, the capable one. And I was what? The accountant. The number cruncher. Well, I showed you, didn't I? I showed you that the number cruncher could take everything away. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. You destroyed my marriage. You tried to take my children. You attempted to frame me for crimes. You killed Patience Mola because she discovered the truth. And for what? Revenge for something that happened 25 years ago. Something I didn't even do. Patience's death was an accident, David said, but he didn't sound convincing. The poison was just supposed to make her forget, to confuse her. We didn't mean to kill her. But you did, Zara said quietly. All eyes turned to the little girl. You killed my mama because she knew the truth. And now everyone knows. You lost. David laughed bitterly. Did I? Look around, Marcus. Your company is in shambles. Your wife hates you. Your children are traumatized. Your reputation, even if cleared, will always have this stain. I might go to prison, but I've still taken everything from you that matters. I've still won. No, Marcus said firmly. You haven't. Because I still have my integrity. I still have people who believe in me. I still have my children's love. And I still have the ability to forgive. David stared at him. What? I forgive you, David. You're my brother. You're sick with resentment and anger, but you're still my brother. What you did was unforgivable by any normal standard, but I choose to forgive you anyway. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I deserve to move forward without this hatred in my heart. For a moment, David's expression wavered. Something like regret flickered across his face. Then it hardened again. Keep your forgiveness. I don't want it. Police arrived minutes later. David didn't resist arrest. As they led him away, he looked back at Marcus one last time. You really didn't convince father to change the will. No, Marcus said. I swear to you, I didn't. David nodded slowly. Then I've wasted 25 years hating you for nothing. He laughed, a broken sound. Isn't that funny? All of this, for nothing. In the weeks that followed, more truth emerged. Investigators found their father's diary, hidden away in storage. The final entries revealed that their father had changed his will not because of anything Marcus said, but because he discovered David had been embezzling from the family business even then. Their father had planned to give David a second chance by letting Marcus rebuild the company honestly while keeping David on to learn integrity. David had never known. He'd created a narrative of betrayal where none existed, and then spent 25 years making it real. The legal proceedings were swift. David cooperated fully, providing evidence against Amora and the consortium in exchange for a reduced sentence. He would still spend years in prison, but not life. Amora faced even harsher penalties, as she'd been the one who'd personally administered the poison to patients. 6 months after that fateful day in the supermarket, Marcus stood in front of a crowd at the opening of the Patience Mola Memorial Orphanage and School. Zara stood beside him, wearing a brand new school uniform, ready to start at a prestigious academy Marcus was sponsoring. Patience Mola gave her life to protect the truth, Marcus said to the assembled crowd and cameras. She barely knew me, yet she risked everything so that justice could prevail. This orphanage and school will ensure that children like her daughter Zara have opportunities regardless of their circumstances. It will be a place where truth matters, where character matters, where doing the right thing matters. The crowd applauded. Marcus's children, Kofi and Omar, were there too, slowly healing from the trauma of their mother's actions. They'd started therapy and were beginning to understand that they could love their mother while also acknowledging what she'd done was wrong. After the ceremony, a young reporter approached Marcus. Mr. Wellington, your story went viral 6 months ago. Millions of people watched your humiliation and then your vindication. What would you say to them now? Marcus thought for a moment. I'd say that life can change in an instant. One moment you think you know everything, and the next, you realize you know nothing. I'd say that help can come from the most unexpected places, like a 9-year-old girl with a backpack full of truth. I'd say that betrayal can come from the closest sources, and that forgiveness is not weakness but strength. He paused, looking at Zara, who was laughing with some other children. But most importantly, I'd say this. Never judge someone's entire life by their worst moment. When you see someone's cards declined, when you see someone struggling, when you see someone at their lowest, remember that you don't know their whole story. Choose kindness. Choose compassion. Choose to be the person who helps rather than the one who records and mocks. Because someday, you might be the one who needs help. And when that day comes, you hope someone like Zara is there to offer their hand. The reporter smiled. That's beautiful. Do you have any regrets? Only one, Marcus said. I regret that I was so focused on success that I never noticed my brother's pain. I wish I talked to him, really talked to him, 25 years ago. Maybe all of this could have been prevented. But I can't change the past. I can only build a better future. As the sun set over Lagos that evening, Marcus Wellington sat with his children and Zara, eating ice cream and watching the ocean. His phone buzzed with notifications. His story had gone viral again, but this time as an inspiration rather than a scandal. Comments poured in from around the world. Watching from Kenya. This story gave me hope. From Brazil. Never judge too quickly. Learn that today. Atlanta, USA here. That little girl is a hero. Nigeria represent. Mr. Wellington, you showed us how to handle adversity with grace. Marcus smiled reading them. Then he turned off his phone and focused on what mattered. His children's laughter. Zara's bright smile. The sound of waves. The taste of ice cream. The simple, beautiful moments that money couldn't buy and that betrayal couldn't destroy. He'd lost his wife, his brother, and nearly everything else. But in losing it all, he'd found what truly mattered. And with the help of an unexpected little girl who'd kept her mother's promise, he'd found his way back to truth. Sometimes, Marcus thought, the worst moments in life lead to the greatest revelations. Sometimes getting your cards declined at a supermarket is just the beginning of a journey toward understanding what really matters. And sometimes, just sometimes, a little girl with a backpack can change everything. What would you have done in Marcus's situation? Could you have forgiven your brother? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, if it made you think differently about judgment and forgiveness, then share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because stories like this, stories about truth triumphing over lies, about kindness conquering cruelty, about small acts of courage changing everything, these are the stories we all need to remember. Thank you for staying until the end. Until next time, remember, never let anyone's worst moment define them. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. We are all more than our struggles, more than our failures, more than our declined cards. We are all capable of redemption. And we are all worthy of a second chance.